dreaming of new feelings. I feel great in every moment when I see the world around me. It makes me
Open to the new shades. Amazing Thailand.
สวัสดีค่ะทุกท่านขอต้อนรับเข้าสู่การท่องเที่ยวแห่งประเทศไทยเว็บมิน่านะคะโดยจะเริ่มจากวันนี้เป็นวันแรกจากสำนักงานซิดนีย์ในหัวข้อ Business as Unusual สำหรับตลาดโอเชียเนียโดยเราจะมีผู้บรรยายทั้งหมด3ท่านนะคะและจะจบด้วย Q&A ซึ่งท่านสามารถพิมพ์คำถามเข้ามาโดยทางด้านซ้ายของจอท่านนะคะจะมีปุ่ม Q&A ท่านสามารถพิมพ์คำถามเข้ามาและสามารถเจาะจงที่จะถามแต่ละสปีกเกอร์ได้เลยนะคะครั้งนี้นะคะเราจะใช้เวลาประมาณ1ชั่วโมงและและจะมีการบันทึกภาพและเสียงนะคะซึ่งท่านสามารถเข้ามาฟังได้อีกครั้งผ่านทางเว็บไซต์นี้โดยเราจะมีการประชาสัมพันธ์ให้ทราบอีกครั้งนะคะและทั้งนี้เนื่องจากเรามีผู้บรรยายเป็นชาวต่างชาติดิฉันขออนุญาตดำเนินรายการเป็นภาษาอังกฤษค่ะ Good afternoon all. Hope everyone well and healthy. Thanks for tuning in today. The topic today is Business as Unusual of Oceania Market, runs by Tourism Authority of Thailand. So for the next hour, we will listen to some advice and updates of Australian and New Zealand market during the pandemic COVID-19 and how to prepare when things are back to normal. At the end, you have a chance to ask some questions, which you can leave your question on the left-hand side of your screen. Of your screen. So now, I would like to bring our speakers. Today we have Kun Sulada Saruti Rawan, Director of Tourism Authority of Thailand, Sydney office. Tom McMenemy, Senior Partnerships and Contracting Manager of Luxury Escapes. And Jessica Quinlan, Senior Principal Client Partner, Destination Marketing, Australian, New Zealand and Pacific Islands of TripAdvisor. Hello all, thanks for all joining in today. So without further ado, let's start with our first speaker. With the first section, she will be presenting in Thai and at the end, I will summarize some points in English. So let's invite Kun Sulada Saruti Rawan, the Director of Tourism Authority of Thailand Sydney office. Kun Sulada, please go ahead.
สวัสดีค่ะท่านผู้ร่วมรับฟัง TAT Webinar ทุกท่านนะคะในส่วนของทททสำนักงานซิดนีย์นะคะเราดูแลพื้นที่ตลาดโอเชียเนียซึ่งหลักๆก็คือพื้นที่ออสเตรเลียแล้วก็นิวซีแลนด์นะคะแล้วในวันนี้ก็อยากจะมานำเสนอให้ฟังนะคะว่าสภาพตลาดในปีที่ผ่านมาเป็นอย่างไรนะคะปัจจุบันเป็นยังไงบ้างแล้วก็เราจะ move forward เราจะเดินหน้ากันต่อไปยังไงนะคะในสถานการณ์ของโควิด -19 นะคะเริ่มจากออสเตรเลียก่อนนะคะถ้าดูจากตัวเลขของจำนวนผู้เดินทางออกจากออสเตรเลียนะคะเดินทางไปต่างประเทศเนี่ยเมื่อเดือนมีนาคม 2562 จนถึงกุมภาพันธ์ 2563 เนี่ยมีจำนวนทั้งสิ้น 11.35 ล้านคนนะคะซึ่งก็ถือว่าค่อนข้างเยอะนะคะเกือบครึ่งหนึ่งของประชากรคือประมาณ 45% ของจำนวนประชากรทั้งหมดที่ 25 ล้านคนนะคะประเทศไทยถือว่าเป็นแหล่งท่องเที่ยวยอดนิยมแห่งหนึ่งของออสซี่เลยก็ว่าได้นะคะตัวเลขจาก Australian Bureau of Statistics นะคะเมื่อปีที่แล้วมีคนไทยเดินทางโทษทีค่ะมีออสซี่เดินทางมาที่เมืองไทยเนี่ยนะคะ 533,000 คนนะคะแต่ถ้าเป็นตัวเลขที่เก็บที่บ้านเราเนี่ยจะอยู่ที่ประมาณ 768,000 คนนะคะเนื่องจากกระบวนการในการเก็บเนี่ยแตกต่างกันเล็กน้อยนะคะจุดหมายปลายทางอื่นๆที่ชาวออสเตรเลียนิยมเดินทางไปนะคะก็จะมีนิวซีแลนด์นะคะมีอเมริกาสหราชอาณาจักรแล้วก็ประเทศในหมู่เกาะแปซิฟิกนะคะนี้ถ้ามาดูในเอเชียด้วยกันเองเนี่ยนะคะจุดหมายปลายทางที่ชาวออสเตรเลียนิยมนะคะนอกเหนือจากไทยนะคะก็จะมีบาหลีจีนญี่ปุ่นสิงคโปร์แล้วก็อินเดียนะคะทีนี้นักท่องเที่ยวเหล่านี้มาจากไหนบ้างนะคะในสไลด์ถัดไปก็จะเห็นได้ว่า มาจากทางแถบชายฝั่งทะเลตะวันออกแล้วก็ชายฝั่งทะเลตะวันตกเป็นหลักนะคะชายฝั่งทะเลตะวันออกก็อาทิเช่นทางแถบรัฐนิวเซาท์เวลส์นะคะ 34% วิกตอเรีย 27% นะคะควีนส์แลนด์ 16% นะคะแล้วก็ข้ามไปทางตะวันตกนะคะรัฐเวสเทิร์นออสเตรเลียอีกประมาณ 15%กราฟถัดไปเนี่ยก็จะเห็นได้ว่าประเทศไทยเนี่ยต้องบอกว่าเป็น holiday destination สำหรับชาวออสซี่จริงๆนะคะเพราะถ้าเราดูจากวัตถุประสงค์ในการเดินทางเหตุผลในการเดินทางเนี่ยนะคะเดินทางไปเมืองไทยเพื่อไป holiday เนี่ยสูงถึงประมาณ 75.7% นะคะเช่นเดียวกันกับdestination อื่นๆในเอเชียนะคะที่เป็น holiday destination ก็อาทิเช่นบาหลีญี่ปุ่นแล้วก็ฟิจิค่ะถัดมานะคะข้ามไปดูที่นิวซีแลนด์บ้างนะคะจำนวนชาวนิวซีแลนด์ที่เดินทางออกไปต่างประเทศเมื่อปีที่แล้วทั้งปีเนี่ยนะคะมกราคมถึงธันวาคม 2562 เนี่ยนะคะจำนวนอยู่ที่ประมาณ 3.1 ล้านคนนะคะมากกว่าครึ่งหนึ่งของประชากรนะคะเกือบประมาณ 65% ของจำนวนประชากรซึ่งมีอยู่ไม่เยอะนะคะนิวซีแลนด์มีประชากรอยู่ที่ประมาณ 4.88 ล้านคนนะคะจำนวนชาวนิวซีแลนด์ที่เดินทางมาเมืองไทยข้อมูลจากนิวซีแลนด์สแตทนะคะจะอยู่ที่ประมาณเกือบ 50,000 คนนะคะขณะที่ตัวเลขเราเนี่ยจะอยู่ที่ประมาณ 112,000 คนนะคะจุดหมายปลายทางที่ชาวนิวซีแลนด์นิยมนะคะก็คือเดินทางไปที่ออสเตรเลียอเมริกาสหราชอาณาจักรนะคะประเทศในหมู่เกาะแปซิฟิกนะคะส่วนจุดหมายปลายทางในเอเชียนะคะนอกเหนือจากไทยก็จะมีเดินทางไปที่จีนอินเดียบาหลีแล้วก็ญี่ปุ่นค่ะทีนี้นักท่องเที่ยวเหล่านี้มาจากที่ไหนบ้างนะคะก็จากทางเกาะเหนือประมาณ 70% นะคะหลักๆก็คือมาจากทางออกแลนด์แล้วก็เวลลิงตันนะคะส่วนอีก 30% เนี่ยจะเดินทางมาจากทางเกาะใต้นะคะก็คือทางเขตแคนเทอร์เบอรีหรือไครสต์เชิร์ชที่เป็นเมืองหลักนะคะทีนี้แหล่งท่องเที่ยวที่เป็นที่นิยมในเมืองไทยนะคะทั้งออสซี่และกีวีเนี่ยก็จะนิยมแหล่งท่องเที่ยวที่เป็นประเภทหาดทรายชายทะเลแหล่งท่องเที่ยวในเชิงวัฒนธรรมหรือว่า local experience ต่างๆนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นจุดหมายปลายทางที่เป็นที่นิยมในเมืองไทยนะคะอันดับแรกเลยก็คือภูเก็ตแล้วก็พื้นที่ใกล้เคียงนะคะไม่ว่าจะเป็นกระบี่เขาหลักพังงานะคะถัดมาก็จะเป็นเดินทางไปที่กรุงเทพนะคะเกาะสมุยเชียงใหม่แล้วก็พัทยาค่ะทีนี้เมื่อเกิดสถานการณ์การระบาดของโควิด -19 นะคะก็จะให้ดูตัวเลขว่าตัวเลขก็จะเริ่มดิ่งลงตั้งแต่ประมาณสักกลางๆหรือปลายเดือนกุมภาพันธ์นะคะทางซ้ายมือเนี่ยจะเป็นตัวเลขของทางออสเตรเลียนะคะส่วนขวามือเนี่ยก็จะเป็นของนิวซีแลนด์ค่ะในส่วนของมาตรการที่ส่งผลกระทบต่อการเดินทางเป็นอย่างมากเลยนะคะก็คือเรื่องของ Travel Advisory นะคะซึ่งทั้งรัฐบาลออสเตรเลียแล้วก็นิวซีแลนด์เนี่ยได้ประกาศ Travel Ban นะคะก็คือห้ามพลเมืองของตนเนี่ยนะคะเดินทางออกต่างประเทศทุกประเทศทั่วโลกนะคะไม่ได้เจาะจงเฉพาะประเทศใดประเทศหนึ่งนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นก็จะเห็นได้ว่าในแผนที่เนี่ยนะคะก็จะเป็นสีแดงหมดเลยนะคะคือห้ามเดินทางออกไปทุกประเทศทั่วโลกนะคะโดยที่รัฐบาลออสเตรเลียเนี่ยได้ประกาศTravel Ban เมื่อประมาณสักวันที่18มีนาคมนะคะส่วนนิวซีแลนด์ก็ประกาศไล่เลี่ยกันค่ะตามมานะคะทีนี้เมื่อคำแนะนำในเรื่องของการเดินทางบนเว็บไซต์ของทั้งสองประเทศเนี่ยนะคะมาดูที่เมืองไทยบ้างนะคะก็ยังเป็นคำแนะนำว่า do not travel นะคะเนื่องจากว่าเป็นช่วงของการห้ามการเดินทางนะคะถึงแม้ว่าในสถานการณ์ปัจจุบันเนี่ยนะคะสถานการณ์การระบาดเนี่ยจะดีขึ้นมากนะคะแต่ว่าก็ยังคงมี travel ban หรือ travel restriction ต่างๆนะคะแล้วก็คาดว่าในเรื่องของการเดินทางของทั้งออสซี่และกีวีเนี่ยนะคะน่าจะเปิดการเดินทางภายในประเทศก่อนนะคะเพราะว่าต้องเรียนว่าในออสเตรเลียแล้วก็นิวซีแลนด์เนี่ยแต่ละรัฐเนี่ยเขาก็จะมี restriction ของตัวเองนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นก็จะต้องมีการยกเลิก travel restriction ของแต่ละรัฐก่อนเพื่อเปิดการเดินทางในประเทศนะคะแล้วหลังจากนั้นเนี่ยการเดินทางระหว่างประเทศเนี่ยคาดว่าความเป็นไปได้สูงน่าจะเป็นการเปิดการเดินทางระหว่างออสเตรเลียแล้วก็นิวซีแลนด์ด้วยกันเองก่อนนะคะที่เขาเรียกว่าเป็นแผน Trans-Tasman Travel Bubble นะคะก็คือเนื่องจากทั้งสองประเทศเนี่ยสามารถคุมสถานการณ์ได้ค่อนข้างดีนะคะแล้วก็จำนวนผู้ติดเชื้อ ที่เพิ่มขึ้นในแต่ละวันเนี่ยก็ตอนนี้เป็นเลขหลักเดียวตลอดนะคะหรือของนิวซีแลนด์เนี่ยก็เป็นศูนย์มาได้ 2-3 วันแล้วเนี่ยนะคะแล้วก็ทั้ง2ประเทศเนี่ยก็ค่อนข้างพึ่งพาเศรษฐกิจระหว่างกันนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นก็มีความเป็นไปได้ในการที่จะเปิดการท่องเที่ยวระหว่างกันก่อนนะคะนอกเหนือจากในเรื่องของ travel advisory ที่ว่าแล้วเนี่ยนะคะก็คงจะต้องมาดูปัจจัยต่างๆอีกนะคะไม่ว่าจะเป็นเรื่องของการกลับมาบินของสายการบินนะคะก่อนหน้านี้นะคะเรามีเที่ยวบินตรงที่บินจากออสเตรเลียเข้าสู่เมืองไทยเนี่ย53เที่ยวบินต่อสัปดาห์นะคะหรือคิดเป็นประมาณ 17,000 ที่นั่งต่อสัปดาห์นะคะแล้วก็มีเที่ยวบินตรงที่เชื่อมโยงจากนิวซีแลนด์เข้าสู่ประเทศไทยนะคะอีก7เที่ยวบินต่อสัปดาห์หรือประมาณ 1,700 ที่นั่งต่อสัปดาห์นะคะแล้วเรายังคงจะต้องดูในเรื่องของสภาพเศรษฐกิจของออสเตรเลียและนิวซีแลนด์เองนะคะเรื่องของค่าเงินเรื่องของอัตราการว่างงานนะคะแล้วก็ความพร้อมของเราเองของไทยเราเองในการที่จะรองรับนักท่องเที่ยวนะคะทีนี้จากสไลด์ตัวนี้นะคะลองดูว่ารายงานคาดการเรื่องของเศรษฐกิจนะคะจาก IMF เนี่ยก็คาดการว่าเศรษฐกิจของออสเตรเลียในปีนี้น่าจะหดตัวลงที่ประมาณ6.7%นะคะแล้วก็ในปีหน้าจะรีบาวกลับมาค่ะอยู่ที่ประมาณ 6.1 นะคะในส่วนของอัตราการว่างงานนะคะก็ประมาณที่ 7.6 กับ 8.9 ในปีนี้แล้วก็ปีหน้านะคะทีนี้ก็อย่าลืมว่าในส่วนของออสเตรเลียเองเนี่ยนะคะก็เผชิญกับวิกฤตมาหลายวิกฤตพอสมควรนะคะทั้งในปีที่ผ่านมาจนถึงปีนี้นะคะไม่ว่าจะเป็นเรื่องของภัยแล้งนะคะเรื่องของไฟป่านะคะแล้วก็เรื่องของโรคระบาดนะคะในส่วนของนิวซีแลนด์เองนะคะ IMF ก็คาดการณ์ว่าเศรษฐกิจเนี่ยจะหดตัวอยู่ที่ประมาณ 7.2 ในปีนี้นะคะแล้วก็เช่นเดียวกันจะรีบาวกลับมาในปีหน้านะคะบวกไปที่ประมาณ 5.8 นะคะส่วนอัตราการว่างงานนะคะของปีนี้ก็ประมาณ9.2 ส่วนของปีหน้าก็จะดีขึ้นนะคะอยู่ที่ประมาณ6.8 นะคะเพราะฉะนั้นต่างๆเหล่านี้ก็เป็นปัจจัยที่เราจะต้องนำมาคำนึงถึงนะคะในเรื่องของการจะกลับมาเดินทางท่องเที่ยวนะคะทีนี้มาพูดถึงในช่วงที่มีการระบาดของโควิด -19 ในช่วงที่เป็น Great Lockdown ผู้คนอยู่ที่บ้านนะคะต้อง work from home เนี่ยนะคะไม่สามารถเดินทางไปไหนมาไหนได้เนี่ยเรามาดูเรื่องของ media consumption ว่าช่องทางในการสื่อสารเนี่ยคนรับการสื่อสารจากทางไหนบ้างนะคะถ้าดูตามเจนนะคะเจน Z เนี่ยก็จะเช็คข้อมูลผ่านทางออนไลน์เป็นหลักนะคะจะเป็นพวกออนไลน์วิดีโอคอนเทนต์ต่างๆนะคะถ้าเป็นกลุ่มมิลเลนเนียลก็จะค่อนข้างหลากหลายนิดนึงนะคะรับสื่อผ่านทางออนไลน์วิดีโอออนไลน์ทีวีหรือว่าบอดแคสต์ทีวีนะคะรุ่นใหญ่ขึ้นมานิดนึงค่ะกลุ่ม Gen X นะคะก็จะรับสารผ่านทางทีวีออนไลน์หรือว่าออนไลน์วิดีโอนะคะส่วนกลุ่มบูมเมอร์นะคะยังคงรับสื่อในเรื่องของทีวีออนไลน์เป็นหลักนะคะนี่ในช่วงเกรดล็อกดาวน์นะคะกิจกรรมที่คนทำก็แน่นอนก็ผ่านทางโซเชียลมีเดียผ่านทางออนไลน์ต่างๆเป็นหลักนะคะไม่ว่าจะเป็นเรื่องของการเช็คข้อมูลโควิด -19 อัปเดตนะคะดูหนังฟังเพลงเล่นเกมนะคะหรือว่าทำกิจกรรมต่างๆเนี่ยส่วนใหญ่ก็จะเป็นการทำผ่านทางออนไลน์นะคะก็มีข้อมูลอันนึงที่น่าสนใจว่าก็ยังมีคนที่เสิร์ชหาข้อมูลในเรื่องของการท่องเที่ยวอยู่บ้างพอสมควรนะคะถึงแม้ตัวเลขจะตกลงมาเยอะนะคะแต่เราก็มั่นใจว่าเมื่อสถานการณ์ดีขึ้นมีการยกเลิก travel restriction ต่างๆเนี่ยคนจะกลับมาเดินทางอย่างแน่นอนนะคะในส่วนของทสำนักงานซิดนีย์เองนะคะเราก็มีหน้าที่รักษาความต้องการในการเดินทางหรือรักษาโมเมนตัมของทางฝั่งดีมานด์ทางฝั่งนี้เอาไว้นะคะเพื่อให้คนนึกถึงเมืองไทยนะคะเมื่อสถานการณ์ดีขึ้นอยากจะออกเดินทางท่องเที่ยวก็จะนึกถึงเมืองไทยเป็นอันดับแรกนะคะเราก็มีทำกิจกรรมหลายๆอย่างนะคะเป็นกิจกรรมที่ทำผ่านทางออนไลน์นะคะยกตัวอย่างเช่นกิจกรรม Cooking Class นะคะอร่อย at homeวิชชาติไทยนะคะก็เป็นการทำร่วมกับร้านอาหารชื่อดังในออสเตรเลียนะคะหรือว่าเป็นการออกกำลังค่ะ Stay fit in self isolation with Muay Thai online exercising class นะคะก็ทำร่วมกับค่ายมวยที่นี่เช่นกันนะคะหรือจะเป็นกิจกรรม Amazing Thailand Trivia Challenge นะคะตอบคำถามเกี่ยวกับเมืองไทยนะคะแล้วก็ในช่วงปลายเดือนนี้นะคะ Thailand Weekสัปดาห์สุดท้ายของเดือนพฤษภาคมเนี่ยนะคะเราก็จะทำเกี่ยวกับเรื่องอาหารไทยเช่นกันนะคะรวมไปถึงการทำออนไลน์เทรนนิ่งให้กับเอเย่นเริ่มกลางเดือนนี้เช่นกันค่ะ อันนี้ในส่วนการที่จะ move forward ต่อไปข้างหน้านะคะเราจะไปต่อกันยังไงเนี่ยนะคะก็อยากจะให้ดูว่าความต้องการของนักท่องเที่ยวในการที่จะเดินทางเนี่ยจะหลากหลายแล้วก็จะเฉพาะเจาะจงเพิ่มมากขึ้นนะคะแล้วอีกอย่างก็คือเราจะต้องให้ความสำคัญกับเรื่องของ personal hygiene นะคะเรื่องของการใส่ใจสุขภาพเรื่องของความปลอดภัยนะคะเรื่องของ best deal เนี่ยยังอยู่แน่นอนนะคะทุกคนก็ต้องการของที่ราคาไม่แพงนะคะโดยเฉพาะอย่างยิ่งในสภาพเศรษฐกิจที่อาจจะเกิดขึ้นต่อไปในอนาคตเนี่ยนะคะเทรนด์การท่องเที่ยวของตลาดโอเชียเนียนะคะก็มีหลายเทรนด์ที่ขึ้นมาเป็นที่นิยมนะคะที่เราอาจจะลองไปปรับใช้ดูกับproduct ของเราที่มีอยู่เนี่ยนะคะอย่างเช่นเรื่องของ slow travel นะคะเป็นเรื่องของการท่องเที่ยวแบบเนิบๆนะคะแบบไม่เร่งรีบนะคะJOMO Trips ก็คือ Joy of Missing Out นะคะคือเป็นนักเดินทางที่ไม่ต้องการไปทำกิจกรรมอะไรที่คนทำเยอะๆนะคะไม่ต้องการไปที่คนเยอะๆอย่างนี้เป็นต้นนะคะหรือจะเป็นเรื่องของ gastronomy นะคะ local gastronomy การท่องเที่ยวในเชิงอาหารนะคะไม่ว่าจะเป็นเรื่องของอาหารของท้องถิ่นต่างๆหรือว่าอาหารเพื่อสุขภาพนะคะก็จะเป็นเทรนด์ที่มาแรงนะคะ transformative journey ค่ะก็คือทริปที่เดินทางเพื่อค้นหาตัวเองนะคะเปลี่ยนแปลงตัวเองไปจนถึง sustainable tourism ซึ่งอันนี้ก็เป็นกระแสมาได้พักใหญ่ๆแล้วนะคะเป็นเรื่องของการให้ความสำคัญกับเรื่องของ local community เรื่องของสิ่งแวดล้อมนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นถ้าเรามีกิจกรรมอะไรที่ property ของเราที่มันเกี่ยวข้องกับการรักษาสิ่งแวดล้อมเนี่ยก็จะได้รับความสนใจมากพอสมควรนะคะแล้วก็อีกอันนึงค่ะสำหรับตลาดออสเตรเลียและนิวซีแลนด์ที่ยังเป็นที่นิยมอยู่นะคะก็คือคนที่นี่จะชอบเรื่องของ adventure travel นะคะการท่องเที่ยวในเชิงผจญภัยนะคะกิจกรรมต่างๆเดินป่าปีนเขาดำน้ำชมธรรมชาติต่างๆนะคะมันก็ในส่วนของประเด็นที่อยากจะฝากเอาไว้นะคะเกี่ยวกับเรื่องของการที่จะเดินหน้าต่อไปเนี่ยนะคะก็อยากจะให้ทุกท่านให้ความสำคัญกับในเรื่องของการปรับเปลี่ยนนะคะทั้งในแง่ของกระบวนการที่เราจะรับนักท่องเที่ยวซึ่งก็คงพอจะทราบกันแล้วนะคะว่าเราจะต้องทำอย่างไรในเรื่องของ personal hygiene อะไรทั้งหลายแหละเรื่องของความปลอดภัยนะคะแล้วข้อสำคัญก็คือเราจะต้องปรับตัวให้ทันความต้องการของนักเดินทางด้วยนะคะเพราะว่ามีความต้องการที่หลากหลายมากๆนะคะแล้วก็น่าจะดีขึ้นไปอีกนะคะหากเราสามารถที่จะตอบสนองได้เกินกว่าความต้องการของเขานะคะแล้วก็ข้อสำคัญนะคะก็ฝากเอาไว้คือเรื่องของช่องทางการสื่อสารทางการตลาดที่เหมาะสมสำหรับการโปรโมทของธุรกิจต่างๆของเราด้วยค่ะช่วงนี้ก็ฝากไว้เท่านี้ก่อนค่ะ
Thank you, Kun Suwata. So basically, we are expecting that domestic travel within Australia and New Zealand will start again soon. So once the travel restriction is, industry figures expect that many will return like domestic first, especially the road trip will be in trend. And hopefully will follow by the international travel, which, Trans-Tasman bubble between Australia and New Zealand. This is to increase economy within the two destinations. Another factor that we need to keep in mind in regarding after the travel ban lift is economy, and flight resumptions. That will be very important as well. Exchange rate, including unemployment rates, and how ready is the destination to accommodate the returning of the tourists. Overall, the behavior of the consumer shift to more online now, according to visualcapitalize.com research shows that 18% of millennials still search for vacation during the lockdown, meaning that the need of travel is still there. So which is a good sign indeed. That's a good sign. So thank you so much, Kun Sulada, for your research. Interesting facts indeed. I'll come back to you shortly. So now let's bring in Tom McManamy from Luxury Escapes. Tom is creative, passionate, articulate thinking. Tom has been working with Luxury Escape for 5 years now, contracting Thailand as well as other destinations throughout the time. He is well known and respected amongst Thai hotels and has a reputation for being a hard but fair negotiator, results focused and delivering on expectations. So please go ahead, Tom.
Thanks, Kylie. Saudi Cab. Yeah, really great to be here talking with you all. And what I'm first going to do is give you all a brief update on how business is for Luxury Escapes before moving into our members' long love affection with Thailand. Before then talking about some trends, some desires, a little bit of food for thought, and how you can get in touch with both myself and Tim Clark, who have the pleasure of looking after Thailand. So moving on to the first slide, with how a general overview of things at Luxury Escapes at the moment. It's been a really interesting few weeks and months now for us all in this industry. And I'm really happy and really pleased with where we're placed as a business. Our incredible customer service team have been working 24/7 to service our members, with over 45,000 bookings now having their dates amended. Myself and the rest of the business development team have worked with all of our partners, many of whom I know are on the webinar today, and we've extended over 2,000 campaigns right through until the end of 2021. Of that 2,000, 15% of those are for Thai hotels and campaigns that we've featured within Thailand. Additionally, our technology team have worked really hard to make some changes, quite literally overnight, to allow customers to self-serve and amend their bookings online themselves. Consequently, we've only seen a small percentage of refunds, with many customers making date changes or putting their booking into a buy now, decide later state, where with the various restrictions in place and borders not being open, effectively our members have a booking. They will just pick and choose when to decide at a later date as and when we learn more. There's also been a number of members that have put their booking into an LE credit, which can be used on future bookings. All of our partners in Thailand have been great, more than happy to extend the travel dates right through until 2021. And in doing that and giving our members flexibility, ultimately what we're trying to do and what we are achieving is protect as much revenue and business as possible for both of our businesses. And that's been really great so far. So moving on to Thailand and Luxury Escapes. I've been with the business for 5 years now and been contracting, as many as you would know, Thailand throughout that period. And I just wanted to touch upon historically what Thailand has looked like for our members. There's a real love affair with Thailand and Luxury Escapes. And ever since the business started 6 or 7 years ago, it's consistently been in the top 3 destinations for our members to travel to. Over the last couple of years, we've delivered approximately 200,000 room nights each year. And that equates to about over 500 million baht worth of revenue for the partners that we work with. In terms of destinations within Thailand, there's quite clearly a couple of favourites, as you would expect. So Khao Lak, our premier destination, followed by Phuket, and then Koh Samui, Bangkok, and most recently Hua Hin has emerged that our members love to travel to. The remaining percentage there is Chiang Mai, Krabi, and a few of the other islands, Koh Phangan, etc., etc. Now, before I move into the trends, I just wanted to call out some statistics that will form part of what I will talk to, both in the trends and the desires. Historically, we've been primarily regarded as a sort of an Australian, New Zealand business, but over the last couple of years, we've grown from strength to strength with satellite offices opening up in places like America, in Singapore, where I was based for a while, and where Tim Clark is now based. And we've really seen huge growth with our Asia-based members. And when I refer to local Asia, I'm talking about Thailand, Singapore, Hong Kong, Indonesia, etc., etc. So people in Singapore looking for holidays in Thailand. So in Australia, the average length of stay is 7.4 nights versus Asia being 3.8. From a spend perspective, our members in Australia, on average, spend about $2,300 on their holidays versus the Asian-based members being just over $1,000. And from a couples versus family perspective, so what is the makeup of the booking? Australia is 80% couples with 20% families, whereas in Asia, it's 68% couples and 32% families. So in Asia, we tend to see slightly younger travelers that may travel with one or two children. And as I mentioned, over the last couple of years, we've been doing a lot of work there to really work with the partners to target those shorter lengths of stay. And often the lead time is a little bit shorter as well. Australian members tend to book things, let's say 5 months out or 5 months in advance, with Asia being a little bit less. And that's something that we will continue to work on. The TAT guys just spoke about the Trans-Tasman bubble, and I'll get into more of this a little bit in my slides, but we almost envisage that opening up in Asia as well. So the popularity of people in Singapore traveling initially to Thailand before the Australians come back to Thailand, we think that's going to be a real big push to start with. So plenty of good things to be working with, and both Tim and I, as many as you would already know, are having lots of conversations around that at the moment. So next I'm going to talk about trends and what we're seeing at the moment from our members. And I'm going to focus on 3 trends that we are seeing. The first one being purchase to book by dates. 87% of customers who were booked to travel before the 30th of June 2020 have now changed their dates or converted their booking to be a buy now, book later, effectively allowing them to select dates once the travel restrictions have eased. Of that 87%, 17% have selected dates for this low season, so prior to October, and 10% have booked dates in high season, November 20 through March 21, and 20% have selected dates in low season 2021. So for example, you were meant to travel to Phuket in August 2020. You've now decided, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that and I'm going to go in August 2021. About 20% of our members have done that. There's then around 40% of members who have opted for the buy now, book later. And I guess the buy now, book later, or often it's referred to as a voucher concept, is something that's being talked about a lot at the moment. And for Luxury Escapes, that's something we've been doing ever since the business began. It's how our business, originated. We would put together these amazing offers. People would effectively buy a voucher, and then they would select dates to travel to whenever they decided they want to do. So for us, that concept is not new, and it's something that's really put the business in good stead going forward. The next trend is touching upon what I just mentioned in the last slide, and we're seeing some really great signs domestically here in Australia, with searches and traffic to the Luxury Escapes website now being back at 90% of what it was pre-COVID. It says 80% on the slide, but when we had a conference call this morning, it was back up to 90%. So that's really, really encouraging sign for us. So effectively, 90% of people, the 90% views are back to what they were pre-COVID-19 for intrastate travel. So for example, someone traveling from Sydney, New South Wales to Melbourne, Victoria. Interstate, people staying within their state. For example, I'm based here in Melbourne, myself looking for a holiday within Melbourne. That's also coming back to the levels that it was pre-COVID as well. And for me, that gives me a lot of confidence going forward, because I think as the consumer confidence grows, as restrictions begin to ease and people can travel within regions, we are seeing more and more consistency across the number of sales for multiple properties in different locations. So campaigns that we've got live in Sydney, in WA, in Melbourne, and even New Zealand at the moment are performing really well under the current circumstances. And that gives me a lot of confidence going forward that as we continue to learn things about the borders in Thailand and the borders in Singapore, Hong Kong, etc., our members will start to travel and will start to be looking for holidays and escapes that they can go on. People are inevitably shopping around. And like I said, as consumer confidence grows, we should hopefully see more and more bookings coming to fruition. And I hope that the intra-Asia follows the really positive momentum that we're seeing here in Australia. The last trend that I want to touch upon is regards to new sales and what we're seeing, sort of buying patterns and behaviors from our members at the moment. And I'm going to use the case study of Labua in Bangkok. So we've had a campaign with Labua live for a couple of weeks now. It's a hotel we've worked with before, and they reached out earlier in the year to put the campaign together. Now, naturally, like most businesses, we have seen a drop in production, and that's inevitable. However, we are still seeing some positive signs, and Labua being one of them. It was a strong offer. It had a long travel period. It was a recognized brand, and it's been really well received. 90% of the bookings that have been made have opted to buy now, book later, decide later. So people are seeing the offer, recognizing, wow, that's a great deal. I want to purchase this. I don't know when I want to travel, so I'm going to buy it so that I can use it at a later date. The remaining 10% have been selecting dates effectively from February 2021 onwards. And it's also worth noting that of the breakdown of sales from a source market, 15% of those bookings are from those local Asia countries that I mentioned, such as Singapore, Hong Kong, and Thailand. And I guess with that, as we continue to learn more, we're expecting to see a real surge in intra-Asia and domestic Thailand bookings. Pre everyone going into lockdown, many of you would have seen the fantastic offer that we had online for Le Méridien Khao Lak. Pre going into lockdown, we were selling 10 plus packages a day from Thailand. So as well as other local countries, our Thai members, very active, very much looking to get away. And we really expect that to continue as our team based in Singapore do some really great work on growing our footprint and our member base over there. The border restrictions is something that we're constantly learning, all of the time. So, for example, here in Australia, there's going to be an announcement from the PM tomorrow. The New Zealand Prime Minister has made announcements earlier in the week as well. And as I said, for me and from reading the media and myself, there is a lot of consumer confidence growing that things are going to change. And this trans-Tasman bubble that is being flirted with quite a lot, it is going to happen. And my prediction and my expectation is that will happen in Asia as well. And we'll see a real surge in people traveling within Asia. My next slide goes into I guess desires and what are we thinking that our members are looking for? And as with the trends, I'm going to talk about 3 desires. So effectively, what do we think our members will be looking for? The first one I'm talking about here is all-inclusive. Now, in Australia, all-inclusive as a concept, it's relatively naive. It's a relatively new thing. I'm from the UK, and when I was a kid going on holiday, we would go on an all-inclusive holiday every year to Spain or to wherever it would be, and it was 2 weeks. All your food is included, all of your drink was included, and it was something that my parents would take us on. It's not really happened all that much in Australia. In Thailand, for example, is only really the village Coconut Island as a property where we've featured true all-inclusive, and we've touched on it with some other campaigns of late now. Our members have seen it in Bali and they've seen it in the Maldives, and it's very much something that is becoming more and more popular. Of the conversations both myself and Tim Clark are having at the moment, this is one of the offers that we are looking at with our partners to see how do we put together a package like this. And we appreciate that everything has a cost associated to it, and it's about working together with each other to find those win-wins. As our members see more and more all-inclusive deals, it's going to become almost a second nature to something that they may expect. And we've played around with all-inclusive dining and various other concepts. But For us, all inclusive with meals, beverages, massages, whatever else it may be, is something that we're going to see a real big push towards post COVID-19. Secondly, villa products. Searches for villa products on our website have really started to spike, and we're expecting to see more and more families and larger groups traveling together. So think 2, 3, 4 bedroom villa properties. There's some incredible villa properties in Thailand. And on the Luxury Escapes website, many of you will be familiar with our homes and villas vertical. This is specifically designed for that style of accommodation. So my expectations with this is that if you've got a big family or you've not been able to see each other however many months because of lockdown, you may choose to book a 4-bedroom villa in Koh Samui and travel there as a family, where you've got your own chef and your other staff taking care of you to really give you a very intimate and personal holiday, compared to potentially being in a hotel. I think a standalone hotel will still be hugely popular, and that forms a huge percentage of our business. But villa product, I really think will begin to take off. The last one is something that me and the team here have been working quite a lot on, and that's going forward, wow me, make me feel special. So our members are not looking for something they can necessarily find on an OTA, and I think business in that way has very much changed. People are looking for very unique, very curated experiences that wow them from start to finish. So what I'd encourage hoteliers here to do is very much go back into a startup mode and think, well, how can we construct packages to wow consumers from start to finish? And again, this is something me and Tim have been working on for a long time with the hotels in Thailand. But from inclusions to upgrades to various different things, how can we make a really compelling package and compelling experience that will be great for our members? And someone makes a decision to buy on impulse, whether they're booking their dates now or when they're traveling in the future. We've got to have something that's really incredible and really sets it aside from other things. And that's something I'm really excited about continuing to work on. And like I said, there's some great properties and great experiences in Thailand. And I guess it's a case of getting our thinking caps on, working together to put together something that's really compelling. That's it from a desires perspective. I've focused on 3. There's probably a lot more. But next, I wanted to touch on a little bit of food for thought and I guess conversation starters and what we can work together on as we navigate our way through COVID-19. The market has very much changed, and it's very much a case of, as I said before, let's go into startup mode and start things from scratch. The strategies that you have deployed in the past and worked on may not yield you the same results that they have done previously. For me and Tim and for Luxury Escapes, the core of what we do remains the same, and we will continue to resonate with our members. We need incredible offers with incredible inclusions to really target our members, whether they're based in Thailand, Singapore, or here in Australia. And curating those offers and experiences to the best destinations in the world remains absolutely critical to the success of our business and working with you guys to get people to come and stay back in your hotels. Secondly, short-term versus long-term. I encourage all of you to not think about just filling your hotels once we're through COVID-19 in those initial months, but how will you continue to fill them 12 months, 18 months, 24 months from now? As I said initially, we believe our members will begin to travel back to Thailand from local source markets such as the domestic market, Singapore, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Thailand, and other local Asian markets. The other big one is China, and many of you know and will be reading in market, there's a lot of talk of China coming back to Thailand very, very soon. For those that are familiar with Luxury Escapes, you'll be aware that we launched a joint venture into the Chinese market back in December with the high-end travel agent Xanadu, and that joint venture was called Yidu. That that sort of launch into the market in December was very much a learning curve for us, and the bookings did come to fruition. And of the bookings that were made, a high percentage, around 60% of the bookings, were for Thailand. Luxury Escapes is investing a lot of money into China. We've now got a team based over there, so we'll be working with hotels about how we can apply the same methodology and same concepts that have worked so well for us here in Australia to the Chinese market. So thinking about different inclusions and other concepts that will work to really help with that market. So both me and Tim are looking forward to discussing that with you from a Chinese market perspective. From a long-term perspective, who knows when Australians will come back to Thailand. It's not a case of if, it's very much a case of when. And we learn more as the restrictions begin to get eased and further announcements have made. For us, it's about having very long travel dates for Australian members at the moment. You'll see that we're continuing to put the deals live and campaigns live for Thailand. You will notice with all of them, the travel dates are well into 2021, and some campaigns are going forward into 2022 as well. And the last food for thought, the theme of this webinar was business as unusual, which I thought was a really, really, really cool name and sort of hits the nail on the head. What I would ask you to consider and sort of think about, as I've mentioned previously, is unnormal holidays and that whole wow thing. So what can you put together? What can we work together on to put together something that's, an amazing concept? It's unique. It's not been seen before. Expect to see more holidays that might be off the beaten track in Thailand. So things, unique experiences. Think of, examples that are coming to my mind are places like Kimala in Phuket, experiences along the lines of treehouse villas on Koh Yai Noi. These often very unique, a little bit of a, they're attractive in terms of the way they look on Instagram and various other things. So expect to see a lot of that as we continue to work through this. But I guess the point with all of that is the business and business has changed a little bit, and we've got to change with that. And I think the TAT guys touched upon this as well, that we almost have to take things back to square one, be very nimble, be very adaptive. As we continue to learn, we can continue to sort of adapt what we're doing to make it work for us. And then just to summarize all of that, as I mentioned, moving on to my last slide, for us and for Luxury Escapes and for the hotels who I continue to speak with week in, week out, it's never been a case of if we come out of this, it's a case of when. And whilst many things sit outside of our control, one of the things that we can control is working through what potential campaigns may look like in the future. Both myself and Tim, as I've mentioned, have the pleasure of looking after Thailand. We're in touch with many of you guys. TAT will be sharing our details for how you can get in touch with us, and we can work through those different options. As I said, we are very much starting to see light at the end of the tunnel. And whilst there's still a long way to go, we are looking forward to working with you and supporting you as we can when we come out of this. Our members love Thailand, and we love working with you guys. And although it's been difficult, we will come through it. And Khop and Kat.
Thank you, Kun Tom. Thank you for your information and solid advice there. So, really, as Australians, they don't like the fuss, I would say. Like, they like, just to travel, go on holiday, peace of mind, like free. So everything include.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that as well. So, everything's paid for. I don't have to worry about, spare money for food or for drinks, especially. Another factor is wow me. Just like you need to find your, unique product to attract your customer. So that is very focused there. So thank you, Tom. We'll come back to you shortly. Okay. Next we have Jessica Quinlan from TripAdvisor. Jessica is a senior principal client partner responsible for tourism boards and governments in Australia, New Zealand, and South Pacific. She has been working in this region for over 5 years now, focusing on partnerships, industry development, and marketing destination to our Royal TripAdvisor community. You're up, Jessica.
Thanks, Kylie. Hello, everyone. Greetings from Sydney. I hope you're all having a great day, and yeah, I'm very hopeful that the pandemic and these unprecedented times will come to an end at some point soon. It's great to chat with you today. I'm really looking forward to taking you through this information and giving you an idea as to what we're seeing in the Australian market. My role is to look after Australia and New Zealand, so everything that's covered, we'll be discussing these markets. So in the first instance, I just wanted to give you an overview of what we have been doing as an organisation throughout COVID-19. In terms of what we have been doing with the industry, I'll focus on two main areas, which is our hotels and our experiences partners. Since COVID-19 began, we have been working with our partners on ensuring that all of the hotels and properties on the site have been listed with temporary closure notices or adjustments to different property offerings or any information that's relevant to travellers. We've been working with our partners on business intelligence solutions, so understanding what's happening in the market for your respective properties. In the experiences part of the business, we've been working on a campaign to promote virtual experiences, which I'll cover in the next slide. We're also working on different consultations with our operators. So if you're one of our operators that we work with, please do reach out to us, and we can schedule a 30-minute consultation to understand how we can optimize listings and improve listings. So when we come out of this, we'll have the best looking listings that we can for our travellers to be viewing. On the next slide, this is our virtual experiences campaign that we launched called #RoamFromHome. This is giving us and travellers hope during this time to really experience some of the experiences they simply can't right now. But the whole idea is to create that wanderlust and that drive and that inspiration to travel again. We know that travellers are eager to travel again. We just want them to, I guess, have a virtual experience while they're in their own homes. Next slide. And I just wanted to also let you all know that we are promoting the support of local businesses through another campaign called #LoveYourLocal. This is something that we're working on with a variety of different partners to really promote local travel or inter-regional travel. We understand, even as Tom mentioned, that there is a lot of travel happening, within Thailand or within the region. So we want to promote that as much as international travel. But we're all obviously hoping that international travel will hopefully come back soon. But this is just a promotion for locals to engage with their local suppliers. So the next few slides is going to take you through our COVID-19 insights, which is based on a survey that we ran with our Australian travellers to really understand more about what is happening during this period of time, what cancellations have occurred, what's the current mindset, what's the thought process, and what's the future of travel. So I'll take you through each part of the survey to give you a good idea as to what we found. This is just a very quick overview. We used Qualtrics as our supplier for our survey, and just a little bit of information about what they do. So in terms of the current mindset, when we asked travellers, we really wanted to understand how long they are planning on waiting post-COVID-19 to travel again, and for this forum to travel internationally. So when we surveyed our travellers, and we really wanted to get a bit of a time frame in mind, so 90% of our respondents actually told us that they would feel comfortable travelling internationally within 6 months after COVID-19. And I would have to obviously assume that would mean that the airlines would need to be flying by that time. So the time frame is just to give you an idea as to how quickly the market will recover. And I do believe within 6 months is obviously a very positive piece of news for the industry. Next slide. Yeah. And next. So during this time, we really wanted to understand, as was mentioned earlier in the forum, and as you would be aware, there's a lot more media being consumed at the moment, and there's a lot of media being consumed regarding travel. So we wanted to survey our travellers to understand, with everything that's happening in the media and with all of the announcements and all of the news, we wanted to understand where people were getting their information and where the travellers felt most likely they were going to receive that information by which platform. So what we found is that travellers were coming to us more and more for travel information rather than some of the other platforms. So we saw a specific increase was seen in TripAdvisor versus Expedia. We actually found that people were coming to us for the information about hotel closures or changes to business operations. When we looked at travellers feeling informed, we wanted to understand which platforms travellers were more likely to feel informed about travel. And interestingly enough, the data actually tells us that travellers are more and more looking at social media for travel updates. So the key takeaway here, and something that we are well aware of, is that any travel information for your property or your product needs to be updated across all platforms, because at any given moment, travellers would probably be on at least 10 platforms at one time looking for the most recent information. So it's a great idea to ensure every platform that you're on has been updated, as well as obviously ensuring TripAdvisor is also updated. So in terms of anxiety and fear, we did understand, and we saw it throughout the survey, that Australians are going through a period of time where there is a lot of fear and anxiety in the market. The Australian media landscape is at the moment very busy, and there are a lot of platforms that people are feeling very anxious on. And we found that the TV news stations, newspapers, Facebook, and even radio were actually platforms that people were feeling very anxious on, and those platforms were seen as being more of a stressor for travellers. So what we were looking at is understanding that our site is ensuring that people are feeling less anxious, and that we are purely providing the information that we need to travellers, which was a great piece of insight for us. And when we ask people how they're feeling, and in terms of if they're scared on different platforms or if they're getting very nervous or fearful of traveling in the future, we did find again, and this would be quite obvious, that the TV stations, Google, and some of the social media sites we've seen throughout the pandemic, and particularly in Australia, have been circulating a lot of different information. There's a lot of stories out there on when travel will resume or when airlines will start flying, and there's a lot of news at the moment, and potentially a lot of that is scaring people. So what we wanted to do is really ensure that we are a platform that's not scaring people or making people anxious, and really our aim is to make people excited to travel again. So we asked people to look ahead. So we really wanted to focus our energy on not what's happening at the moment, but the future trips that people are wanting to take. And what we found is that travellers cannot wait to book their next trip. 80% of our respondents said they're already excited to plan their next trip. And out of the 80%, 59% had already started researching. So what we're seeing at the moment is, although the bookings and those booking levels are down, what we're seeing is that the planning is up. So we're seeing people are actively planning and researching and starting to get inspiration from a variety of different sources. And one interesting fact we found is that 47% of our audience had spent up to 5 hours that week planning their holiday. So this is an amazing statistic. It's something that we have never really seen before. For a traveller to spend 5 consistent hours planning travel is quite amazing. So it's going to hopefully reflect on what's happening in the planning space. And once travel does resume, we would expect these travellers to be starting to book their trips. Next slide. So looking ahead to the future and the changes that we're going to see, I believe that a lot of what we're going to see is changes in travel planning. What our respondents have told us is they will make changes. They will spend a lot longer and more time on planning their trips. So this is going to be one of the key changes moving forward, is the change in the travel planning process. The change in lead times will be something that will become quite a new trend moving forward. And when we ask people what will be, what are you looking for out of your first trip once you come out of the coronavirus pandemic, we found that 39% of people were more likely than they were pre the pandemic to want to take a beach vacation, which I believe is positioning Thailand very well. Obviously, the beach vacation appeals to the Australian audience. And so I would expect this is a great statistic for Thailand as a destination, particularly for our travellers who are speculating they will be travelling within 6 months of the pandemic. I believe this will be one of the first destinations that people will be searching for. And in terms of what we're also seeing, we do want to understand the new normal. So it's a phrase that a lot of people are using. It's basically saying that there is going to be changes and there is going to be a new normal coming for us. So what we've found is that when we ask people what types of trips they're looking for in their first or their second trip post the pandemic, we found the most important type of trip was actually sitting with relax and rejuvenate, which leans towards the beach vacations. We found 38% want to make memories with family and friends. And I think that's a great statistic that matches a lot of what Tom's saying on the family and the couples audience. I do believe that we'll see a lot more people traveling with family and friends moving forward. Anything to escape from the daily routine, escape the 9 to 5. We're seeing a lot of people are looking at outdoor adventure in national parks. So this might also be a great opportunity to consider leaning towards experiences that involve outdoor adventure and national parks. And everyone just wants to enjoy themselves once we come out of this. So that's a big part of what we're looking at. And I think the biggest learning for us throughout this survey was really understanding that there are different needs from travellers now. There are going to be changes in people searching for example, health providers when they're travelling. They might even search for where the nearest hospital or where the nearest medical provider is based out of that destination. And we're also seeing different needs. So whether people are, taking longer to plan, they're most likely going to look at a larger variety of hotels and experiences. So the hope is that potentially the length of stay may end up increasing because people have done, hopefully, their 5 hours of research. They would have had enough time to figure out that they need a lot more time than what they have historically in a destination like Thailand. So in summary, and I guess wrapping this up, I just wanted to say a very big thank you. I'm very pleased to present today, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions or take any questions offline.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Thanks for the insights. Very useful statistic indeed. Thank you. I'll come back to you with some questions shortly. Okay, so คนออสซี่ก็จะคราวนี้ก็ปกติเขาก็จะใช้เวลาประมาณ5เดือนในการแพลน holiday หลังจากโรคระบาดนี้จบแล้วนะคะโควิด -19 ก็จะคาดว่าเขาอาจจะใช้เวลาแพลนเพิ่มมากขึ้นนะคะแล้วคราวนี้เราก็จะได้มีเวลาเขาจะได้มีเวลาบอกว่าคิดไตร่ตรองว่าproperty ไหนมีสามารถที่จะ accommodate ความต้องการของเขาได้มากที่สุดเพราะฉะนั้นจุดสำคัญเลยก็คือการที่เราจะ bring จุดเด่นของเรานะคะจุดเด่นของ product ของ property เราของ service เราออกมาให้เป็นจุดสนใจจุดดึงดูดกับชาวออสเตรเลียนะคะขอบคุณมากนะคะสำหรับคุณเจสสิก้าโอเค without further delay let's move to questions okay so if you have any questions please leave your questions on your left hand side of the screen there let's start with the first questions Okay. Okay, let's have a look what we have. Okay, yep. Let's go with that one, the most words. So, when will the travel ban from Australian market be lifted according to your perspective? Tom?
Yeah, $1 million question, I guess. For me, I think travel to New Zealand will be the first one that we'll see. And my absolute hope for that is that would be probably by the end of June, but more realistically July. For travel to Thailand, I think my gut says that will be likely the very end of this year, December potentially, but more than likely it could be into January. If I go off what I read in the press, more than likely I think it will be more than likely into 2021 before we see our members traveling back to Thailand from Australia.
Yeah, we'll and also we'll just have to wait for tomorrow. We'll see what the government will announce, and yeah, we can moving forward from there. Would you agree, Jessica?
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Next questions. All right. What would be the major changes or travel trends post COVID-19? Jessica?
I think there are 3 major changes that we're already seeing, and I think there's actually going to be a lot more that we find out in the future. But the 3 that I'm finding at the moment is the changes in travel planning and the potential changes to lead times. I do believe that there will be some shift in that, whether there is a longer lead time I do believe there will be a longer lead time. I'm just not sure how long that will be. I do believe there'll be changes in the trip types. So people on our site, I was actually looking at the data, and there's been an increase in luxury hotel searches over the last week. So I do believe the luxury romance segment is going to be a big part of what we see moving forward. And we also have been seeing that travellers are seeking more value rather than cost. We are seeing that people, although the economic situation is not ideal, we are seeing that people are looking for the value of the trip or the experience over the cost.
Okay. Yep. Tom, do you have anything for that?
No, I think Jessica summarised pretty well. I touched on a couple in the prezzo, but yeah, for us it's the all-inclusive aspect. I think we'll see a major surge in that type of trend, and people looking for that in their holiday, as well as the wow me, something that I wouldn't typically have booked previously. I've had all this time to sit at home and see all this aspirational content and see all this amazing destination footage that we see. people booking something that they wouldn't necessarily have booked previously.
All right. Let's move to the next questions. Okay, according to the statistic, Thailand drops a lot of both Australian and New Zealand. What are the main factors and what we can do to bring back the market? Can I shoot this to Kunsulata, please?
Okay. I think according to the market situation, the value of currency plays very important role. I think you all know that in the past, even now, Thai baht is very strong. Okay, comparing to Australian dollar or New Zealand dollar, we used to get like one AUD, we can get about 30 Thai baht, but at the moment only 20. So like it drops a lot. So that's probably one of the major reason. The second one is the number of seats on the flight. We used to get only about 42 direct flights between Thailand and Australia, and 7 direct flights between New Zealand and Thailand. And the seats, like it was cut a lot. We lost about 5,000 seats per week. So that might be another reason why the number drops a lot.
Okay. Thank you, Ka. So let's move to the next questions. Okay, please advise what you have foreseen some necessary new normal that we have to prepare for your client. Who would like to answer this one? Jessica, I see you smiling.
In terms of the new normal, I do believe that there's, and I have been reading a lot about the new cleaning standards and the new standards for traveling. I do believe will change. It's very hard to speculate how to really prepare for that. I do believe that ensuring the standards are in place and ensuring that, if a hotel property or a tour operator is planning on opening sometime soon, it would be good for them to understand all of those necessary requirements. But I'm not 100% familiar with what those were or what those are. Tom do you have any information?
Yeah, I guess for me, the new normal, and I touched upon this in the preso, is almost forgetting about what we think we knew and going into that startup phase. Like, for example, seasonality. Historically, November through to March would have been a high season in Thailand. That may likely change over the last couple of years. High season was almost trying to be extended into April and sometimes even into May. I kind of think that's all going to be reset a little bit, and the traditional travel patterns that we've seen, certainly for the next 12 to 18 months, seasonality, I don't know if that exists in the way that it used to previously. So that's where, for me, we've all got to be a little bit creative and a little bit adaptive to the way we do things, because if we stick to the laurels of what worked for us previously, we might not get the results that we need to, because other people will be doing things differently. For example, in Bali, there could be a shift in the seasonality there. And with Bali and Thailand being so comparable in terms of the type of holiday that some members want to go on, it's important that we're very adaptive and creative in our mindset.
Okay. Yeah, regardless, you just have to be adaptable for the new normal, I suppose. Yeah. Do we have time for the next questions? Okay. Yes, we do. Okay, Tom. Do you think the exchange rate of Australian vs Thai baht is very low this year?
Yes.
Will it affect with the bookings, traveling trend of Australian to Thailand, especially Phuket? I would say so. What do you think?
If COVID wouldn't have happened, I don't necessarily think that the strength of the Thai baht versus the AUD was affecting our bookings to Phuket. I don't see that as a factor. With it, over the last couple of months, the Thai baht again has remained around 20 baht to the dollar. It's improving a little bit at the moment. I think, being realistic, bookings to Phuket or travel for Phuket for the next 12 to 18 months are going to be down anyway. And I don't think necessarily the exchange rate or the currency is a factor in that. COVID-19 is the big factor in that. So I think from a luxury escapes perspective, for us, it's all about the value of the deal and the value of the proposition to the consumer. As long as that price point is attractive and as long as the value is there, people do have expendable income, and people may, if they don't, they'll chuck it on a credit card or do whatever. For me, the FX rate isn't really a factor on the consumer end. It's more of a factor for the vendors, where because of the strength of the Thai baht and the sell prices that we may need to maintain in market makes it a little bit tricky. But I don't think that the strength of the Thai baht is going to result in less bookings to the consumer. It just makes things more difficult to negotiate.
Okay. Yep. That's yeah. Agree with that. I agree with that. Okay. We are running out of time, so we just have time for one more questions. Okay. So this will be like for Kun Sulata. Does TAT promote about Amazing Thailand SHA over there? Will this be one of those reasons to decide which property or which trip to book?
Okay. The Amazing Thailand Safety and Health Administration, or SHA, of course, we are promoting here in our market over here in Australia and New Zealand. The major objective of this campaign is to establish the criteria or the standard for Thai tourism establishments and services. So we are doing PR through our EDM, through our website, and also press release. And we are going to put this content in our online training for agents within this month as well. And I think it's going to be one of the criteria that the travelers or the tourists will think about for their next trip.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, as a tourism body, we are working very hard during this difficult time, and to keep Thailand in mind for all the Australian tourists. Okay, we are running out of time. Before we leave, if you can please leave your questionnaire feedback, which is on your left hand side of the screen, just behind below the Q&A button, and stay tuned for tomorrow topic at tomorrow the 8th of May at 7 p.m. Impact and Recovery Strategy COVID-19 with TripAdvisor, and at 8 p.m. the North American Road to Recovery for Travel to Thailand with Expedia. That's run by TAT Toronto office. The time is Bangkok time. This is all for today from us Down Under Australian. On behalf of TAT, I would like to thank all speakers: Tom from Luxury Escapes, Jessica from TripAdvisor, and Kun Sulata from TAT Sydney. Thanks for your time today. Thanks for all around. Thanks for all participants today. We got really good feedback. Until then, please stay safe. สวัสดีค่ะ